poetry. So you may be thinking, what is two-voice poetry? Well, it's just a poem written for two people to perform. The poetry usually has two columns. There's one for each person who's reading the poem. Sometimes you'll see, like in one of our examples, there's actually a third column that's for both people to read together. Each person reading the poem reads the text that's in one of the columns. And sometimes the poet wants the two readers to say something at the same time, so the poet will write those words in the same line in each column, or like I said, there'll be a third column in the middle. Kind of depends on how it's written. These poems often sound like dialogue, right? They should sound like someone talking, like a conversation between two people. So here's an example. The thing you need to remember, just like all poetry, remember that poetry is meant to be read aloud. So a poem for two voices is also meant to be read aloud. And each of the two voices takes its turn in reading a line aloud, and occasionally some of the lines are read together by both voices. So if you take a look at this example, we're looking at the parts that are being said by voice one, the parts that are said together, and then the parts that are said by voice two. So the question is, in what order are we saying these? Now, since these look like they're written like on the same line, to me that's a little bit confusing, like who goes first. So I would just say in this case, it's best to go left to right, just like we do in reading, right? I'll be voice two. Would somebody like to be voice one? Do you want to be voice two or voice one? I don't care, I can be either.
I'll be voice one.
Voice one. Okay, go ahead, Patricia. You're going to start.
I'm the younger brother.
I am the older sister.
Playing with toys is my favorite pastime.
Talking on the phone is what I do best. Mom, we read this part together. Mom yells at you more than me.
When I'm your age.
When I was your age.
I will earn so much better grades than you do.
School was so much harder than it is now. You have it so easy. Good. All right. So you can see this is how a poem for two voices would work, right? With, oh my gosh, did I do that or one of y'all did that? Drawing on my screen. Can whoever did that erase it? I don't know how to erase that. There's one erase. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. I don't even know how y'all did that, but okay. Here's another example. This is another poem with two voices. This one is with oranges and apples, right? Apples and oranges. And so y'all know, y'all have heard before, apples and oranges are like two different things, but then it's kind of what they have in common, right? This would be a great one to do a Venn diagram on, but it also, you see the things that are in the middle are the things that are the same, just like in a Venn diagram, right? That's almost how this poem works. Okay, we're not going to read this one, but you can see it works in the very same way as the one we just read. The left is the apple, the right is the orange, and then the middle is the things they have in common, right? Okay, so right now you're going to select either the Night or Like Mother Like Son poem to be read aloud in your breakout room. You're going to then use the twist strategy to discuss the poem. So you want to make sure and discuss, y'all are just having fun now, huh? The title, any words that stand out to you, maybe words you don't know, words that are important. You want to identify any imagery or figurative language. You then want to summarize the poem and identify any symbolism in it, right? These poems are not long, so your summary, like on our other one, we had to summarize each stanza. You're just kind of summarizing maybe in a sentence or two for this. And then make sure and discuss the tone of the poem and the theme. Now, last week when I was grading y'all's papers about tone, a lot of you said it has a negative tone. That's a first step. Yes, say it has a negative tone, but go beyond that. Go into it. It sounds depressed, or it sounds inquisitive. Use a more specific word than just positive or negative. Okay, positive or negative is for the tone is kind of the first step, but then go into more specificity with it. When you talk about theme, your theme needs to be a whole sentence. What's true about life in general, not just love or compassion. That's not a theme, okay? You might say it has a compassionate tone, that's fine, but when you're talking about theme, it needs to be more of a life lesson, okay? All right, and what you're gonna do is you read the poem, now you're gonna complete the Venn diagram, comparing and contrasting two characters in the poem. So if you did the mother and son, it would be mother on one side, son on the other. If you did the night, it would be rabbit on one side, wolf on the other, right? You want to make sure and do 3 differences and 3 similarities. I'm sorry, 2 similarities. So 2 things that's the same about both. That would go in the middle of the Venn, and then 3 differences along the edge. Then when you finish, use that information to create your summary over the poem, and then submit your Venn diagram and your summary. This is what the graphic organizer looks like. If you want to print this PDF and write directly on here, you can. If you want to do your own on notebook paper, that's fine. The thing I'm going to warn y'all about notebook paper, when you use notebook paper, please make sure you make your notebook paper look like the graphic organizer.